These are the 6 things that I've come to know. And a lot of this, again, a lot of this is going to sound really sort of like, well, duh, right? But I think it's worth re-articulating, because in a lot of cases it's not, in poorly managed organizations, these things aren't there. And keeping track of all of them is good. Actually know the work of the people you manage. Know what it takes. Know the challenges. Know the tools. Right? Know what they're trying to accomplish. 2, keep ensuring that you keep your, what I call your street cred. Right? Great middle managers have a way of ensuring that they keep their credibility with people that work for them. We'll talk about that. Number 3 is sometimes, to give you the most important, is gotta stay out of their way. We're the calibrators. They're the doers, right? The more we stay out of their way, the more they do, right? The less of this that we make them go through, the less readouts, the less updating 3 spreadsheets with the same information, right? These are the things that get in the way. Ensure those above you are finding success. Network horizontally, right? We talked about this. Make sure that you're always contacting across an organization with your peers. And then make sure that you're respecting the position. Make sure that you're reading blogs, that you're going to conferences where you can. If you're going to be in the technology business, even if you're a manager, it's nice to know what the new technologies, what are the trends that are emerging, right? What are some of the new challenges? What are some of the new tools, right? You want your doers to be focused on that, but it's important as well to be up to date on the state of the industry that you're in, okay? I really think that's true. And besides, otherwise life is boring. That's the fun stuff. Invest in the types of activities and results that you will manage. Invest in the types of activities. I'm trying to think what I meant by that. It makes sense with the next one, right? So, if you manage people who code, you should be able to read the code occasionally, right? Invest the time it takes. You can't keep up. You can't. You have another job. It's called calibrating. It's Middlework. It's important. You can't keep up. But, right, it's important if you're in a servicing position to keep up on the diagnostics. Know that you can diagnose some of those problems with them, right? Work a ticket occasionally. See how that feels, right? Know the work. Know what it feels like to do that work. I'm not saying you got to go out and learn a programming language, a new programming language, but like for instance, I still write books about Oracle databases and how you do recovery on them. It's something to kind of break the rust off, right? I've been doing management and leadership for so long, it feels good to dive in, set up a Linux, always a challenge for me, right? Just get a Linux environment, get a database installed, right, and start to work through the newest features and set up a backup recovery and make it highly available. And just go through all those tasks. And just kind of break some of the rust off, and you're like, oh, that's right. And you figure out what's changing, right? You don't have to go that deep always, right? But you do need to keep up. The street cred, right? Keeping your street cred, right? Balancing your credibility with what you've got to tell them to do is tough, right? We've already come across this a couple of times today where I said, look, you can't just throw upper management under the bus and expect that that's how you're going to keep your street cred. Right? You can't just reject it. I think we're going to skip this exercise because we're running low on time. But don't reject top-down messages outright. Some of the ways you can build credibility. One is like I mentioned already, know the work they do. Right? Nothing builds credibility better than being able to speak the same language and know kind of what the things they're going through. Right? And occasionally being able to call BS on somebody. They're like, oh, it's going to take 2 weeks. You're like, no, it won't. I can go do that tonight. Come on. It's not going to take 2 weeks. They're like, all right. So, make sure that you keep your credibility. The other way is if you're doing the listening, if you mentioned talking about delivering messages up and following through with message delivery when someone comes and says, hey, it'd be a lot better if we did this, if we changed our process to eliminate these 3 steps. We could do it this way, it would be better. You can follow up and actually show some of those changes. No better way to have credibility with your team. No better way. Stay out of the way. This is so much harder to do than to say, right? We're managers. We want to know what's going on. So we want to get status reports. We want to have people tell us how they're doing, what's going on. This isn't a thing that you just say, okay, I'm going to stay out of your way. This is a discipline, right? It takes practice to constantly be looking for the things that get in somebody's way and then avoid it. What are some of the things that get in the way of your team? Just name some. What about performance appraisal process? Performance management. They got to do the self-appraisal. You got to appraise them. You got to log into a new system. Right? That gets in the way. About meetings. Meetings sometimes, staff meetings. How many meetings? What's your meeting load look like for your team? How many meetings do you have with your team?
Weekly ones?
Yeah.
Weekly.
You know, weekly meetings. What else? There's got to be things that get the people.
Training.
What's that?
Training or sometimes.
Training, right? Process change. Like, hey, we're going to change your process. You got to learn a new process. Hey, you got to learn a new tool. We're moving from TFS to Jira. What with that? Right? Again, there's so many things that we can do, and that we're not in charge of, that we can help to move obstacles out of the way as well, right? So if the team is heads down, they're focused on something. If you want to find success, you've got to ensure that the results that you seek reflect well on your manager, the person above you, and the results that he or she will be judged against as well. Now, again, this sometimes comes into conflict, right? Where that if all you're doing is making that person look good, you may not be serving the greater good, right? You may not be serving the larger purpose, and so that becomes a moment where you've got to do some bottom-up work of your own manager, saying, look, I know that this is important to you, but I fear that we're getting off track here, and I'd like to be able to focus on a couple other tasks. Maybe if we could get that onto your, if you could bring that up as something that you want to work on, then you can get the credit for that. Make sure you have some questions prepared, right? About their Middlework skills. So we talked about it. See if you can get to the bottom of where their behavior intensities are on the 7 behaviors, right? Take the little flower thing as you're talking to somebody, and you can kind of fill it. And you can do that for your body right now. You're like, they focus on this, not this, not this. So you can't change that necessarily, but it's good to know walking in, right? That you've got your eyes wide open into what kind of a situation you're working with, right? Particularly if you want to achieve greatness in whatever role you're in, which I think is always the goal. You want to achieve the greatness. You don't want a manager who's going to be micromanaging you, right? And coming down hard on you and doing all of these horrible middle management things that are going to just make for a toxic environment. It's the best of your ability. Try to, even if you can't change that, know what those things are so you know how to work around them. You don't even care, right? That we talked about one of the ugly cliches, right? It's like, you don't even care about your job. It shines through, particularly to individual contributors, when a middle manager doesn't respect what they do, what they're currently doing. They're like, yeah, I'm just here until I can get something better, right? Whenever that attitude is on display, it shines right through. And so make sure that you're not displaying it. It's okay to want to go on and find better things, but you have to show the proper respect and do the work that's in front of you all the time. And from the middle, what that means is you've got to respect this calibration work, right? These 6 calibrating activities, all these little knobs that we've got to twist and turn to make these endeavors succeed. There isn't a lot of respect in the larger world for this, right? Like when I went to do the research on potentially writing this book, there is 0 books in the entire canon of management. There's 0 books. There's 1 book, but it's about how you get out of being a middle manager. That was the only book. It's like, here's how to not be one anymore, which is fine. But this is important stuff. There's hard evidence from studies that show that this is important. What you guys are doing is important. Calibrating work is important. So my appeal to you as we come out of this, great, what it takes to be great, is respect that work, respect that it's important, right? This is useful stuff. And with that, I believe we're